Hi everyone, welcome back. I wanted to talk tonight a little bit about when it's our time to pass. I often say, especially to parents, I think you all know that I've shared with you many times that most of my clientele are parents who have lost children. And the one thing, as important as it is to bring through evidence by bringing in information that will validate for the parents that I am in fact hearing from their children, aside from that, the most important thing I want parents to take away and understand is that when we pass, when we take that final breath, it's always God's time. It's never our time. I don't care if you die if you pass from suicide, from murder, from natural causes. If you're 5 years old, if you're 100 years old, it doesn't matter. We will only take that final breath when it's God's time. Always, always when it's God's time. People think that, we have to wait to take that final breath before we actually see the other side. And that's not the way it works. So I'm here to tell you, don't worry about and question when you're going to pass, because you will know. You will know. Whether you're healthy or whether you were dealing or will be dealing with an illness, it doesn't matter. You will only take that final breath when it's God's time, and you will see before you pass. Some of us will see minutes before, some hours, some days. We all hear the stories where people passed away, and then you'll hear someone say, well, gee, Joe died, but last week he was just talking about how he wasn't afraid to die, and he was talking about God, and he never talked much about God or dying, and all of a sudden he wanted to have this conversation. That's because we see and we're preparing. That's why people, out of the blue, they want to prepare a will. It's really important, imperative that they take care of this, or they reach out to people that they haven't been in touch with for many years, and share memories and things with them. And it's all part of the process. It's all part of the process and information that's fed to us and that we receive before we actually take that final breath. But we all do see whether a loved one comes for us, whether we see a glimpse of the next dimension, of heaven, whatever it is, however your path is, your journey is to depart from this earth to transcend to the next dimension, you will know. You will know and you will see. But for parents out there or anybody who's lost someone and you're playing the woulda, coulda, shoulda game, I know especially with when it's a suicide, it's the hardest passing a suicide because people feel guilty about a last conversation they had with that person, or maybe they didn't help them or reach out to them enough, and everything goes through their minds and they begin to blame themselves. And I always tell people it's very important that you understand it doesn't matter. Whether that person took their own life or not doesn't matter. They still would have passed the second that they passed. And this I know to be true. This I know to be true. So it doesn't matter whether they took their own life or whether they were home sleeping in their own bed. They would have passed when it was God's time for them to pass. So please, get rid of the guilt. It doesn't matter. Everything happens the way it's supposed to happen. It's the same when, we hear the stories all the time where people will come here and say, my mother was in the hospital dying, and I went there every day, and I just left for an hour and she died while I was away. And I always say it happens the way it's supposed to happen. Sometimes it's harder for them to pass when a loved one is with them. Now, they'll still pass the second they're meant to pass, but it's a little harder. It's hard to leave your loved ones behind. Even though you have loved ones on the other side and you see where you're going, it's still a love connection. So it's hard for them to leave sometimes when a loved one is close to them. So if you're there when a loved one passes, you were supposed to be. If you're not, then you were not supposed to be, okay? So please don't beat yourself up and don't worry and wonder what could have been or what should have been. It doesn't matter. We all have a time down here that we're supposed to be here. And a lifetime for some could be 2 years old, or could be 20 years old, or could be 97 years old. Okay? It's all according to their own personal journey, and it's all according to God's time. Okay? So don't fret about it, and please don't worry about it anymore. Okay? So that's the little message for tonight. Not too long tonight. And as always, I leave you in God's love and light.